Hey everybody, it's Hussein Kabani, your favorite broker, and boy, do I have a story for you. This is not just a 2020 story. This is a story about the worst situation in my entire real estate career that I've ever been involved with. Let me just tell you guys this right off the bat. When things go well, you get your realtor, you get a real estate lawyer, people come in with the funding and everything closes good. Everybody's good, everyone's happy. But when things go wrong, you wanna make sure that you guys got the right people to help you out, because this is a very serious situation. So what ended up happening was it started off as a normal day, everything's good, bright and sunny. We're going into a multiple offer situation for my client. I'm representing the seller. We end up getting a couple of offers on this property. I have a habit of actually checking out the buyer, getting as much information as I possibly can. One of the offers looked appealing to us after we worked it around a couple of different times. I researched this buyer. The buyer himself is the realtor and he's a mortgage agent. And I also checked that he owns a couple of other properties. Seems pretty legit to me. The deposit on the agreement is really good. So we said, okay, let's move forward with this deal. We had almost a 4-month closing on it too. So whatever kind of happens, you have enough time to close this transaction. Great. My clients are really happy and they're ready to move forward and find their new home. We go out there in the market, we find them a beautiful home that they want to actually renovate and live in. So great. We go out, we purchase this property. Since the property needs renovations, my clients decided to close on it earlier so they can do the renos. So they have to do something called bridge financing, which is basically where the bank will see that you've already sold your house and it's a firm deal and they will advance you the money to close on this other property. So they've bought, they closed, they renovated, they moved into this property. What happens just before closing? The buyer comes back and he's like, you know what, our funds are kind of tied up. We didn't expect this. We need a 2-week extension on closing the property. It's bad news, but it's not the worst news. I've been in this situation. I can navigate this. I know how to handle this. Never had a problem with this type of situation. What ends up happening is that the seller's lawyer basically gets an additional deposit from the buyer and they go ahead and extend the closing date, and that buyer is going to be responsible for all of the cost damages because of this delay for 2 weeks. No problem. We're going to continue to move forward. Then what happens? Then we get into a second extension request. So this is going to be the second extension that they're requesting. And they're asking for another 2 weeks because they still cannot get their funds and they can't close. This time it becomes a little bit more serious. I haven't been in this situation where someone's asked for a second extension now. The lawyer representing my seller, basically they go back and they ask them for a mortgage commitment letter to make sure that they have a lender that's willing to lend them the money. They also ask for them to give an additional deposit and to basically sign off on the deposit if they fail to close this third time, which I think is reasonable. If you can't close, there's got to be some type of penalty over here at this point. The buyer comes back and he's like, I'm not showing you a mortgage commitment letter because there's too much personal information. Come on, buddy. What is in this mortgage commitment letter that we don't know about already? We just want to make sure you have a mortgage. So that's one of the things. And the second thing is he refuses to sign off on the deposit. At this point right now, the seller and the seller's lawyer, they have a discussion and they figure out that they're not comfortable moving forward with this buyer, which I totally agree with them. And they want to relist the property. The lawyer basically tells them look, you can go ahead, you can relist the property and you can deal with this buyer after this house is sold and closed. And then that's when you can figure out what's going to happen with all the deposit money that's in trust right now. We start to move forward along that line. As we're starting to move forward with this, obviously that buyer is not getting an extension. So that buyer / realtor starts contacting me again and saying, look, this is what we're trying to do. We need this extension. And I just basically have to direct them back to the lawyer and say, hey, this is out of my hands. I can't help you out with this at all. You need to talk to your lawyers and they need to sort this thing out. Main reason, guys, I want to do this is because I know that there's damages and liabilities. I don't want to say the wrong thing and jeopardize anything for the client. I rather direct them back to the lawyer. This is happening. And then all of a sudden I get a call from one of the buyers, and the buyers, well, let me backtrack 1 second. So we basically, I direct the buyer back to the lawyer, we ended up listing the property on the market because we feel comfortable of what our rights are and what we can actually do with this. Fortunately for us, the market is still good. We started getting a bunch of showings going into this property, and I started talking to some agents where things are starting to look pretty serious. Then I all of a sudden get a call from one of the buyers, and they're basically threatening us in a very legal manner and saying that they're going to register a caution on our property. Caution on a property? What is a caution? I have never heard of something like this before. So I have to Google, what is a caution on a property? I have no idea, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm researching this, and it's basically saying that there could be a caution registered for a couple of different reasons. One is that if there's a family dispute on selling the property, they register a caution which prevents the title of the property from being registered to another buyer for 60 days. There's another one where, in this situation, where that buyer feels feels like they have the right to this property and they can register a caution. What I found out was that this is a very, very serious thing. This is a very serious comment to be making, to tell somebody that you're going to register a caution. Like, you better be damn sure that this is what you want to do, because there's a lot of liabilities if you do something like this, even on that buyer's end. Like, that lawyer can be in a lot of trouble, that buyer can be in a lot of trouble. It's a very serious thing when you start to throw around that you're going to register a caution on someone's title. At this point right now, obviously my seller's freaking out because they've already purchased another property, renovated it, closed on it, moved into it, their families moved into it, this house is sitting empty, this buyer's not closing on their property. They need those funds to make themselves even on the property that they purchase, and they're really stressed out. They all work full time, they got kids way beyond what they should be dealing with. So what ends up happening is that my seller's talking with their lawyer and trying to figure things out. And this lawyer, honestly, I can tell you is that is absolutely no help to them at all. He's basically just deferring them and saying, hey, this is not what I do. I just close straightforward legal transactions. You need to get a litigation lawyer, and there's nothing else I can tell you about this. I found that to be incredibly shocking, and I couldn't believe what this lawyer is telling him. And basically what I did at that point is that I have a lawyer that I work with, I've been working with for the last 16 years, and I basically went to him, and a great guy, I called him up and I said, hey, listen, this transaction is not with your office, but this is what the situation is. What do you think we can do over here? And he basically told us without a doubt, he said, you know, that money that's sitting in deposit is yours. You can go ahead and sell the house to somebody else. If they register a caution, there's going to be a world of pain coming to their way, because there's no real reason why they should be registering a caution against this property. So we spoke with him. I spoke with another lawyer. I spoke with another litigation lawyer, 2 or 3 litigation lawyers. I found all these contacts. We did all of this research, and then we said, you know what, we're going to continue to move forward. Well, what happens? When we're really comfortable with moving forward and we get a letter from the original buyer's litigation lawyer now that he's retained, basically making a demand, and it's a very cut and dry demand. So we get this letter on Friday morning. We already have, I know we're going to get a deal on this on Friday afternoon, Friday evening. And we were comfortable until Thursday night going into this thinking, okay, yeah, like, you know, we're going to be able to solve this. Friday morning, we get this letter from a litigation lawyer basically saying, you guys got 2 options. One option is you extend the deal. You extend the deal and my client's going to close on this property. And if they don't, then they're going to forfeit the deposit. Okay, that's one of the options. The second option is that you basically sign something called a mutual release. Just so you guys know, a mutual release is something that will release both parties completely without any liability whatsoever from the transaction. And basically, I just told them that this is not fair, and I think that there's got to be some middle ground over here. Like, we don't want to work with these guys because we don't trust them to close, whereas I'm getting another offer on this property, which I think that's going to be a much better deal for these guys to take more confidence in these buyers. They shouldn't be left holding the bag because these guys didn't let them close for a month now. I go back to my client and I say, listen, I think you should get your lawyer to write back a letter to these people and tell them that we got to come up with some middle ground. Like, this is not fair. My seller does go back to his lawyer, and his lawyer is like, hey, I'm not negotiating. Either you're going to take option A or option B, and that's it. That's the end of the story. This got me fuming so badly. Like, I couldn't imagine that you've retained somebody to represent you in a legal transaction for a property, and they're basically just throwing their hands up and saying, hey, this is on you. I'm not doing anything else because I process A, B, and C, and I can't think outside of the box on how to resolve this. Really got me irritated. So I called my lawyer back and I basically told him this is the situation. And look, my clients are willing to release them from the deal, but we want to get something out of this deal as well because they've actually faced some damages. I basically threw out a figure to my lawyer, and my lawyer's like, no, you guys are being way too generous with these people, way too generous. You guys are entitled to get this entire deposit. Let them kick and scream and do whatever they want. You go ahead and sell this property and you can deal with them afterwards in litigation. My client's not comfortable with doing that. How do you get a heart rate of sitting on a chair doing paperwork and phone calls at 135, 140? I wear a Fitbit, guys. My heart rate is 135, 140. I'm getting talked to by the sellers, like incredible amount of pressure. I'm getting pressure from the original buyer. I'm getting pressure from these lawyers. Everything is going sideways. At this point right now, I decided to take responsibility and control of the situation. Honestly, I didn't have to do anything about this. All I could have done is sit back and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm sorry about the situation, but you got to, talk to your lawyer about it. It's not my approach. So what I basically did was I put my neck on the line. One of the agents that was talking about bringing in an offer on the property, I basically told him, buddy, it's either you're going to bring this offer in now or it's not going to happen. Like, we got something else going on. I basically was waiting for this agent. He committed to me. He's going to send me an offer that looks like this. I know it's going to be acceptable to my clients. But at the same time, I still have this other issue to deal with this other original buyer because my seller's lawyer doesn't know how to deal with it and doesn't want to deal with it. Basically, what I have to do at that point is that I ended up calling the buyer and I said, listen, I understand that you guys have retained a litigation lawyer and my clients want a peaceful resolution to this. I indicated to him, but my clients haven't asked me to call you. I'm just trying to find a middle ground over here to sort this thing out. I don't want to get into the details of what we actually did there, but what I basically did was I negotiated for them to release out of the agreement, but for my sellers to get a certain portion of that deposit money and for them to get some of the deposit money back, and everybody walks away from this deal. That buyer, after a lot of hesitation, and we talked about it, and they're like, well, we feel like we're in the right. And I said, that's great. I understand that you guys feel like you're in the right to purchase this property, but you guys failed to close 3 times now. And my clients feel like they're entitled to the entire deposit and they're going to move forward with the transaction, and then this is going to be handled in court. And I kind of alluded to the fact that, I know what's going on over here, and I think that you guys know that you don't have a leg to stand on over here. So they started to negotiate with me about going through a release, but a lower amount. And I basically pushed back and I said, it's not going to work. Long story short, I got him to agree to something. What I wanted to do was I didn't want to write that release. I basically made them write the release to me for my clients to sign. First step, what I did was worked with the other buyer. I got them to sign a release with a certain amount of money going to them and a certain amount going to my seller. And I got them to sign this release, and everyone signed it. After my client's lawyer reviewed it, everyone signed it. That was legit. We were out of that deal and the money situation has been sorted out over there. Then I lined up this next offer to come in right in time and actually sign up that offer. At the end of it, we ended up getting more money for this property. My clients got some money out of that deposit, and overall it worked out to being a better situation. I think this is the best situation, and I don't want to brag about what I've done over here, the work that I put in, but it's really because we didn't stand back and we actually did what was right for the client, even when their lawyer refused to do the right thing. At the end of it, I don't think my client would ever deal with this lawyer again. They do lots of transactions. I don't think they're going to deal with this lawyer again. I doubt it. And I'm pretty sure they're going to continue to retain me for the amount of work that we put into this transaction. I have to leave you with this one thing. This was really, again, to reiterate, the worst transaction ever in my career. I learned so much coming out of this. Again, I'll reiterate that when everything goes well, it goes well. Everybody's a hero at the end of it. But when something goes wrong, you got to make sure that you've retained the right people to be able to help you get out of that situation. All right, guys, if you guys have any questions, comments, if you guys been in a situation like this, I'd love to hear about it. Send me a message, shoot me an email, drop a comment, share this with your friends so they don't get stuck in a situation like this. And remember one thing, guys, get Kabani, get sold.
Sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sold. Sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sold. Sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sold. Sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sold.